guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the female characters in Naruto. I just recently finished Naruto on Monday and I loved it. Naruto is probably now my favorite show. I think I'm going to make more videos about Naruto later. So I want to make videos like talking about my favorite characters, my least favorite characters, and things like that. So this is probably not going to be my last Naruto video, but this is the one that I wanted to start with because it was the thing that kind of stood out the most to me in the show, unfortunately. And it didn't, I don't want to say it like swayed my opinion of the show, but I just kind of tried to take it with a grain of salt. I kind of wished that things could have been different, but they weren't. So today we're going to be talking about the female characters in Naruto. The first character that I want to talk about, and I'm not going to be talking about every single female character in Naruto in this video, I'm just going to be talking about some of the bigger ones or some of the ones that I thought were the most like problematic, or there are two characters in the show that I think they do well, they do justice to women, and so I want to talk about those and give them credit where credit is due. The first thing that I want to say, however, is that not all female characters in a show have to be strong and have to be brave. Female characters are allowed to be emotional, they're allowed to be not physically strong, but the thing is, when you have a show that has a ton of men who are physically strong and who are much more capable than you're portraying the women, you need some strong women to balance that out. You can have your like Hinata is a good example of like, we could have had an emotional Hinata who's like trying to grow and trying to be more physically strong, or who maybe she doesn't want to pursue physical strength. That is fine. We can have those characters. We don't have to have every single character be this like physically strong. Like, not every character has to be Luisa from Encanto. But when you have none of those and you have a lot of men who are that is when I perceive it to be a problem. I also want to say that you don't have to have every single male character be physically strong and be unemotional, and I think that portrays sort of toxic masculinity, and that's where toxic masculinity comes from, because we are portraying femininity as weak and fragile, and we are portraying masculinity as strong and not emotional. So I do want to say that I think that Naruto does do a good job of not being not portraying toxic masculinity. Now, there are a lot of characters who have a lot of toxic masculinity, but like, if you look at Naruto, I think Naruto is a very strong, physically strong character who also has an emotional side. He doesn't ever cry because he decided he didn't want to cry anymore. It's fine to cry, of course, and I think that they do kind of portray that it's not fine to cry, really, for either gender. I think that they kind of push that, like, you shouldn't be crying. But I do think that there are a lot of characters in Naruto who don't have to be as physically strong and who get to have their emotional side. I think Iruka is a really good example of that. He has a connection with the kids and wants to teach the kids, and he's not as physically strong as some of the other characters, and you get to see a lot of his emotions and his worries and, you know, his anger towards Naruto and the whole thing with the nine-tailed fox. So I think that they do a good job, I think, with the male characters and showing that the male characters can have a softer spot. But when it comes to the issue of the female characters, it just kind of falls flat, and it feels disappointing as a fan of the show to see the female characters portrayed the way that they are. The first character that I want to talk about is actually Sakura. She's the main character, and I think she is honestly one of the easiest to look at and have an opinion about. So let's talk about Sakura. My number one peeve with Sakura is that she doesn't do much in terms of physical strength, and when she is in a team, like I said, not every female character needs to do that, but there are just not enough. And Sakura would be a great character to show being physically strong, because she is on a team with Naruto and Sasuke, who are two of the strongest men in the show, if not the two strongest men in the show. Anything I think that Sakura does that is heroic it's often overshadowed by what Naruto and Sasuke do. She has her moments where she's brave and she does something selfless, but even those moments are portrayed almost negatively, like her wanting to go after Sasuke on her own. Everybody kind of tells her that she's too weak to do that, but when Naruto wants to do the same thing, everybody encourages him to do it and everybody stands by him. And I get that Sakura lied to everybody, but she almost had to lie to everybody because nobody had faith in her. But at the same time, I want to say that Sakura never gave people a reason to have the same faith in her that Naruto did, because she was not ever shown having the same strengths that Naruto does. And when I say the same strengths that Naruto does, I don't even just mean the same physical strengths, I mean the same emotional strengths, because Sasuke is very much a weakness when it comes to Sakura. I think we've seen that over and over. So because of that, we haven't seen Sakura display that like emotional stability, I want to say, when it comes to Sasuke, because she makes irrational decisions about Sasuke. And so I can see why the team would not trust her with something like that. So I think that that is one of the problems, is Sakura's instability and obsession when it comes to Sasuke. That is very much a stereotype, I want to say, that is put on women, that they are unstable and obsessive when it comes to men. And I don't like that this is very commonly portrayed throughout Naruto. We will be talking about a couple of characters who have this same trait. Even with Sasuke, we have 3 characters on this list who are obsessed with Sasuke. But right now we're talking about Sakura, and obsession with Sasuke really rubs me the wrong way. Her telling Naruto that she loves him, that upset me so much. I'm so angry with that episode because she was trying to manipulate Naruto by giving him what he wanted, I think. And I don't like that she was portrayed as manipulative. I don't like that she was portrayed as obsessive. And that entire thing is just so disappointing, to see a female character so obsessed with a male character, and obsessed with anybody. But it's not even really mentioned that that is wrong, or that that's not how most women behave. There are characters like in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, for example. She is very obsessed with her ex-boyfriend. But it is shown throughout the series that that's not okay. She even sings a song about being the villain in her own story. She comes to realize that she is in the wrong. And I don't think that, I mean, I haven't ever finished the show, so I don't know, but I don't think that that was ever a relationship that was meant to be like shipped, or that you wanted her to end up with him, because it was clear that she was obsessed with him, and that was not how normally people behaved, and that that's not okay. And Naruto doesn't even mention that this behavior is not okay. And that's another one of my, if Sakura was the only one and it was like, oh, Sakura is obsessed with Sasuke and this is not okay behavior, that's one thing, but it's another thing for this to be the standard of women. All women are obsessed with the men that they like. That's not an okay thing to portray, especially in young girls, because you don't see it, I think, as much in the women of the show, like Tsunade. You don't see her obsessing over anybody. Shizune, you don't see her obsessing over anybody. So I think that this is a bad portrayal to give to young women, that they are supposed to be obsessed with the men that they like. Even Naruto is not like this. Like, if you take Naruto's feelings for Sakura, his feelings don't drive him. He has his own motivations. He has his own character development that is outside of liking Sakura. It's very clear that he likes Sakura, but that's not his entire personality. When it comes to the female characters, that is often the case. Their personality is liking the guy that they like. We'll talk more about a character who has this way more so than Sakura, but Sakura is definitely heavily motivated by her feelings towards Sasuke to a detriment, I believe. Another problem I have with Sakura and her character is her flashbacks. So even in her flashbacks, she is, as a young kid, she is obsessed with her looks. She is still obsessed with Sasuke, and again, looking at the male characters, like let's take a character like Naruto, he is trying to get people to accept him. He is trying to get people to like him. He starts acting out because nobody will accept him. Nobody does like him. He starts becoming a bad kid, and never in these flashbacks do we talk about his looks, or do we talk about his crush on Sakura or on girls. He doesn't notice girls until he's a little bit older. We don't want to be putting that on girls. I think the reason that girls notice boys at a young age is because media tells them that they should. So we should stop putting on young girls, especially young girls, little girls. We need to stop putting on them that they have to like boys in order to be normal at such a young age. That they have to be obsessed with their looks and have to be insecure at such a young age. The whole thing with Sakura having a big forehead, well, like, it just feels, I feel that it's fair when she's older because, you know, girls have insecurities. Guys have insecurities. People have insecurities. And so it is very fair to say, okay, well, now that I'm older, I'm insecure about this thing. But as a young kid, I just don't think she would notice that. And I don't think that people would be making fun of her for that. That being one of her main points is just a little disappointing. Also, I wanted to briefly talk about a very specific episode, and I don't remember which one it is, but it was a flashback of Sakura. It's Sakura and Sasuke. I don't know which episode that is, but the episode I believe is called Sakura and Sasuke. And it's towards the end. It's one of the last episodes. It's a filler episode, I believe. Okay, in this episode, we get to see Sakura's dad, which we didn't really get to see a lot of her parents throughout the show. I think the only time we really did get to see her parents is in filler. I could be wrong, but we don't see a lot of her parents. Well, in this episode, we see her dad, and Sakura says that she has a friend at school, Ino, and her dad says to bring her over in a very creepy way, and then tries to push Sakura to get a boyfriend. And I can't help but think that the reason Sakura is the way that she is because of her dad. And I don't like that. I also think that if that is the case, I think that that should have been more clearly stated. That, you know, we should have seen maybe some issues with Sakura and her dad and seen that this is not okay behavior. Her dad is not an okay person, and he pushed her to be this way. I don't think that we should be pushing on young girls that they need to like boys at such a young age and that they need to be obsessed with their looks. That's just, I think that's a very negative portrayal, and that's a very negative thing to put into the world. My last issue with Sakura is that she typically relies on men to do things for her. Just like whenever she wants Sasuke to come back, she goes to Naruto and begs Naruto to bring Sasuke back to her, but she never takes the initiative of going to find Sasuke. Whenever they go to get Sasuke and bring him back to the village, there is a large group of only men who go to do so. Sakura's not there. Hinata, Ino, nobody, none of Sasuke's female friends go. And I just don't understand why. I don't understand why Sakura needs men to do things for her, because I think that's a big issue for me, is that Sakura is capable of doing great things. I really think that she could be. But we don't get to see her doing these great things because she doesn't do them. I think that Sakura doesn't believe in herself because she is a woman, because she has been taught that because she's a woman, the men are the strong ones, and that is a problem because Sakura has capabilities of doing these things. I want to say right off the bat that I'm not going to be saying which female characters I like more, which female characters I like less, because I am not going to be comparing women to each other. I am simply going to be talking about the issues that exist in each female character that is on my list that I'm going to be talking about. So, now we're going to be talking about Hinata, and my biggest problem with Hinata that I can think of right off the top of my head is that you really don't see Hinata as a character without thinking about Naruto. And I'm not saying I think about Naruto. You don't see Hinata without Hinata thinking about Naruto. Everything that she seems to do seems to be persuaded by, oh, Naruto said this, Naruto did this, I need to be more like Naruto, I need to change for Naruto, and that is such an issue for me. I do love that we get to see Hinata develop throughout the show. That is one positive thing, but it almost is a negative thing because I think that Hinata really didn't have any interest in becoming a physically strong character. But I think that it was pushed on her both by Naruto and by her father that she needed to be physically strong. And I don't think that, again, all female characters do need to be physically strong. And Hinata would be a great example of a female who could be like, listen, this is not the lifestyle for me. This is not what I want to do. And of course, there's a lot of clan responsibilities that she does have, being the oldest girl, being the oldest from the main bloodline. So you can't really say that she was capable of saying, oh, I don't want to do this, because she doesn't have really the freedom to do that. But I do think that could have been an interesting plot. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, let's rewrite Naruto, because Naruto is an amazing show. I'm just saying it could have been interesting to see Hinata say, this isn't what I want to do, and see how those ramifications affect her. But at the same time, I did enjoy seeing Hinata grow in physical strength. I just think that the reason that she grew was not of her own decision. It was more of a decision that men put on her, whether it was her father or it was Naruto. The things about Sakura that I mentioned, most of them apply for Hinata. I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. I think, we've talked about some of the issues with Sakura. Hinata has a lot of the same issues of relying on men to do a lot of things for her, being obsessed with Naruto, which we've already talked about why I believe that is wrong. And of course, Hinata's personality trait being really her feelings for Naruto. Let's move on to Tsunade. Tsunade might be one of the ones that angers me the most, because Tsunade is finally a woman who is physically strong and who is capable of making decisions. She is given a position of power. These are all great things, right? So what could be the problem? Tsunade is so overly sexualized, so angering, because we finally have this strong, independent woman and we're focused on her boobs all the time. And that angers me so much. Another thing that angers me was, oh my gosh, her fear of blood. That just really angered me, because I think that is another stereotypical girl thing. Like, oh, girls are scared of blood. And she is a medical ninja. Of all the people to be scared of blood, it just angers me so much that Tsunade is. And I understand why she is. I understand that she has the trauma, but I just wish that we could have talked about her trauma in another way that wasn't a fear of blood, that is a stereotypically feminine thing, and that literally incapacitates her when she's on the battlefield. Also, if you look at her battle with Jiraiya and Orochimaru, that angered me, because Tsunade is very clearly a strong woman, but she still does not show that strength in that battle because of her fear of blood, and that just really angered me so much. And I think that's why Tsunade's portrayal angers me the most, because Tsunade is very clearly a strong woman, and yet still we're having these issues. Now we finally have a female that I'm excited to talk about, and that is Tamari. And I think that Tamari was done very, very well. She is very intelligent, she is very independent, she is very capable, she is very physically strong. And these are all amazing things. I think that Tamari is a great example of how to do a female well and how a lot of the females should have been portrayed in Naruto, especially Tamari's relationship with men. Tamari and Shikamaru very much have an equal partnership where they push each other to succeed in positive ways. They're not each other's sole motivation, they are not each other's personality traits, but rather they have a chemistry that feels genuine and real instead of these crushes on each other that feel I felt disinterested a lot of the times. They had a genuine chemistry between them that was very interesting. And whenever you see Tamari and Shikamaru together, you're rooting for them. That was my favorite couple in the entire show because they just felt so genuine and it just really felt like they should be together because they pushed each other so much. Another thing that I really like about Tamari is when I think of Tamari, I don't immediately think of Shikamaru. Yes, I like her relationship with Shikamaru a lot, but that is not the first thing that comes to mind. The first thing that comes to mind for me is what an amazing sister she has been for standing by her brother's side while he was like killing people and going through all of the things that he went through with being the Jinchuriki. Another thing that comes to mind is how amazing she is at battle. And even with Shikamaru, her and Shikamaru get into a battle, or I worded that weird, they are in a battle with someone else. And Tamari comes in and saves Shikamaru, which is amazing because that never happens in this show. You never have the woman come in and save the man. It's always the man comes to the woman's rescue. The man's coming to the woman's rescue. It's very repetitive in that sense. But this time you have Tamari coming to Shikamaru's rescue, and that is so exciting. And then afterwards, she says, "Oh, if you need a girl to help you again, let me know," or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly because it's been a while since I've seen that particular scene, but she does like mention that, "Oh, you had to be saved by a girl," because I definitely think Shikamaru at first, I think he grew a lot out of that, but at first he was like, "Oh, well, girls can't do anything. Girls, I don't need girls." And then he needs a female to help him. And I think that's why another reason I love Shikamaru and Tamari's relationship is because Tamari pushed Shikamaru to be a better person. And I love that. Even like the scenes where Shikamaru and Tamari are actually like starting to flirt and like have feelings for each other, it just feels so genuine. Another female character that I think is done very well is Kaguya. And the reason I think that Kaguya is done very well is because she is a very, very strong character. She's very independent. And honestly, the reveal of her being the main villain in the show, being a female, is very refreshing. I think that Kaguya is one of my favorite characters. She gave birth to Zetsu as she was dying so that she could be revived. That is mind-blowing. It also took the two strongest men in the show to seal her away. She was able to get Madara and Obito and very strong men to do what she wanted. She was more powerful than any of them. She was much more powerful than Madara. I know we talked about we don't want to portray toxic masculinity, and it's okay to have emotions, but at the same time, it is really interesting to see a female character who just does not have really any emotions, because she kind of shut that off because she had felt love and she had felt strong love for not even a man, which is amazing. Like she loved that one guy until he betrayed her, but she loved that little girl. And when that little girl died and she had to mourn her is when she shut off her feelings and she no longer felt emotions. So it's interesting to see that all the ways around. I think that Kaguya is done very well, and I think that she's another really great example of how females can be done right. The next two characters I'm actually going to lump together because a lot of my problems with one are my problems with both, and so I'm going to kind of talk about them simultaneously. There are some things I'm going to talk about one, then I won't talk about the other, but that is Ino and Karin. And I think you could probably guess what my issue is with both of these characters, as I have mentioned it briefly earlier. That is their obsession with Sasuke. Both of these characters are very driven by their feelings for Sasuke, and unlike Sakura, there is nothing they have to go off of to have these feelings. Ino has had very few interactions with Sasuke, and Karin, it is very clear that Sasuke doesn't even like her as a friend. He's just annoyed by her. And at least Sakura, they had this, her, Naruto, and Sasuke had this like three-way friendship that was going well, and she has a reason to have a lot of love for him. And I'm not saying that Ino and Karin can't have love for him, but their obsessive crushes on him just don't add up to me because he doesn't show them any attention. Now, the things I'm going to talk about them personally is I don't like Ino's relationship with females either. I think that Ino could have had a great relationship with Sakura, and I think that her and Sakura could have been really good friends if it wasn't for both of their obsession with Sasuke, and I don't like that they allowed a man to come in between their friendship. Ino really was there for Sakura when she was getting bullied, and she helped her through her time of struggle. She made her feel good about herself, and I think that they both deserved better than Sasuke. Honestly, I think that they deserved each other and they deserved each other's friendship. Karin is my least favorite character in the show because she just angers me so much. Her motivations anger me so much. And the fact that she stays by Orochimaru's side, not because she supports Orochimaru. She says this. She says that it's not because she supported Orochimaru, but that she feels that she owes him because he saved her from being a blood bag. She doesn't say that specifically, but you see her being used as a blood bag. Orochimaru saves her from that, doesn't use her as a blood bag as far as I'm aware. And then she goes to Sasuke, who uses her as a blood bag, but she's in love with him because of it. Make it make sense. It makes no sense. Karin's motivations anger me so much in this show because I guess if Karin had said that or not if she had said, but if it had been hinted at even, that she was going to Sasuke because of the trauma that she had faced with the other guys and she was just reverting to being a trauma victim, because a lot of times that's what trauma victims do. I'm not a professional at all in that field, but that is what I've heard, that trauma victims revert back to being a trauma victim. So it makes sense to me that she would do that she would go back to being a trauma victim and that she would think that that is love. But it's not hinted at all that that's why she does that. It's hinted at that it is a good thing that she is doing. Sasuke tries to kill her, and she still loves Sasuke. She has an inner battle with herself about why would Sasuke do this to her. She is very clearly a victim of abuse by Sasuke. And Sasuke takes her past abuse and uses it to his advantage, but that is never stated that that is wrong. It is never mentioned that is wrong. It's never talked about that he treats her poorly, none of that. And so we're again telling women, oh, well, that's fine. That's how things are. And I don't like that. I don't like what messages we're sending to young girls. With all of that being said, there are a lot of positive sides to Naruto, and I did really, really enjoy the show. I try to kind of take the female issue with a grain of salt, which it is hard for me to do, clearly, because I get very angry about it, but there are some females who are written well in the show, and it is still one of my favorite shows, if not my favorite show, because of the plot, because it's an amazing show with just some poor decisions made on female characters' behalves. But that is all of my rant today about Naruto. If you want to see more Naruto videos, I would love to make a video talking about my favorite characters. I would love to make a video talking about my least favorite characters. And I would honestly, we could talk about the ships in the show as well if you would be interested in that. There are a lot of things I could talk about that are Naruto related. So if you want to see more of that, make sure that you subscribe, and I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye.